couldn't get rid of him even when they wanted to. There were all kinds of, courtesans, saints, nuns, holy people, all kinds of people in these books, and they all met and mingled in this era.
You run in here, consumed by a quest, wrestling with demons, her greatest strength and her fatal flaw was a refusal to compromise principle for politics. Why would that be what do you mean by being a flaw?
Well, because she would not compromise absolute divine right of kings, absolute monarchy. She did not want a constitution. She did not want a constitutional monarchy. She wouldn't give in, because she didn't feel it was right for the people. She felt it was giving in to her enemy, the Duke of Orleans, whose father had voted for her father's death. She felt it was a compromise, and the way her rigidity in that may have led to the Second Revolution, in which they got thrown out of France for the final time.
Well, and going through this particular work, as much as in the first work as well, there's lots of people going to Mass and people going to communion and things, and people would say, gee, these people you would think seem like good Catholics, but then we hear stories about them. And you mentioned courtesans and these other people running around in there. It seems like a somewhat interesting kind of juxtaposition.
That was the problem of Catholicism in France. That was what brought on the revolution. The king, Louis XIV, Louis XV, they went to Mass every day. Now they didn't receive communion. They didn't go to confession when they were because they were doing evil things. They eventually did go to confession. But that corruption, that hypocrisy, that dualism brought about the revolution because people were disgusted with it, and it made them blame the church. They thought the church was in league and covering up for the sins of the king. Now, Louis XVI was not that way. Marie Antoinette, in spite of the rumors, she was not that way at all. They were both devoted Catholics. They both went to confession regularly. And but however, that's what sullied it.
Right. So how about their daughter? How about Madame Royale? How did she? Did she carry on in the same way as her mother?
She was a very devout Catholic. That was also, in a way, her downfall. Not that she was devout, but that people expected her to be like her mother. They expected her to be charming, to curtsy, and to look at every person in the eye, make everyone feel comfortable, be a gracious hostess. She was very shy. She did not like to dance. She did not care about clothes. She would save her money, give it to the poor. She would give it anonymously so no one even knew she was doing all of these wonderful benefactions for people. And so it was the good news that she wasn't her mother. She didn't, have the late night card parties and the dancing that Marie Antoinette liked to do when she was a teenager that actually people never forgot about.
So in general, were there not as many rumors about her? Because obviously those were the things that generated the concerns about Marie Antoinette. So.
Yes, there were no rumors about her at all. Because people thought she was cold and arrogant because she was very shy. But they said in person, if you spoke to her in person, she was very kind and loving.
Well, it's interesting because it was, again, we said about all the characters kind of passing through on this historical page that many of us have read about in history books. Like you mentioned before, Bishop Talleyrand, who says, I may not care to practice Christianity, but I do not begrudge others their right to do so. So sometimes when people think things are tough today, we have to think about what has been going on in other parts of the world in other time periods.
Talleyrand did not want to become a priest at all. His parents forced him to be ordained. They did not then attend his ordination. He had mistresses all the entire time, caused extraordinary scandal. He joined with the revolution. He was the one who had the idea of giving all the church lands to the government and making people pledge allegiance to the church and to the state and renounce the papal sovereignty. That was his bright idea.
So is that the foundation of like the Gallican Church?
No, the Gallican Church
was later, right?
Oh no, that was already going. Louis XIV.
Oh, okay, that's sort of earlier.
The Gallican Church, Louis XIV wanted to have a say in appointing bishops, and he would make an appointment and then pass it on to the Pope. That actually paved the way for the revolution, for the constitutional, with the Constitution to have the clergy to have to take the pledge to the state. And even for Napoleon to assume the same power of appointing bishops. They did not get rid of that until after Napoleon, that whole Gallicanism thing.
When Napoleon crowned himself emperor, basically, didn't he take the crown out of the Pope's hands?
He took it over from the Pope. He imprisoned the Holy Father for several years, yes.
Well, just before we go, the things like the Da Vinci Code have been very popular and sometimes, for a lot of negative reasons, but portray themselves as reflecting what really happened when of course they didn't. But the Illuminati, there's a name that, people's eyebrows raised to, what was going on, in And that's involved in this as well, isn't it?
Abbé Barruel, a Jesuit, wrote a wonderful book on the Illuminati called The History of Jacobinism. And he traced the beginning of the Jacobins, who were the revolutionary party, started Robespierre.
So Robespierre, Danton.
Danton, all those people. And they were all belonged to this part of this elite group called the Illuminati. They wanted to do away with the Catholic Church, and in order to do away with the Catholic Church completely, they had to first do away with the French monarchy.
Mm-hmm. So all fit together.
All fit together.
Well, we are just about out of time. What's next for you?
I am writing a novel about my Irish ancestors, the O'Connors, and how they came from County Cork to Canada. All of their hardships. They were very poor people. They kept their faith in spite of many persecutions. It's the complete opposite of what I've been writing about, but I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Will that be under the name Elena-Maria Vidal?
Yes, it will, because that's the name that's become infamous now.
That's your name?
That's my name.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the good work, and we'll catch you the next time.
Thank you
so much.
Thank
We've
you.
been speaking with Mary Eileen Russell, who writes under the name Elena-Maria Vidal. Trianon and Madame Royale, published by Neumann Press, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog. Thank you for joining us on this novel bookmark. See you next time.